Last question for you, Hector. We kind of jumped around here a little bit, but the last question is, what is considered that healthy relationship? And I'm talking about something that is more long lasting, sustainable. What's that longer? How can we make sure that we stay friends forever despite our professional, stuff? But how do we stick together? That's the question.
Absolutely. That's a really, really great question. And there's a few things here. So the first and most important, hey, life gets busy, right? Many of us have families, many of us have kids, challenges may happen, new career, new move, or whatever the case may be. And I think one of the big things is forgiveness. If you have a close friend or somebody that just kind of disappears for a little bit, right?
Mm,
Not because you did anything wrong, right? Or vice
mm,
versa. It's just sometimes life gets busy. So, being open and forgiving to, hey, I understand, you disappeared for 6 months. That's okay. All right. And, growing up in the Middle East, I went to boarding school at 15, then went to college. I have friends, all over the world. And sometimes we don't talk to each other, not, sometimes not for 6 or even 12 months, not because we don't love each other. It's just
right.
life is
Busy.
busy or not. So it's the first thing is
Mhm.
understanding that, is understanding
Mm,
that life gets busy and it's okay if you may not hear from someone. The second thing is going to that point as far as try to connect with somebody, whether if it's a friend, again, it's different, friends or family members or business relationships, right? What do you believe is going to be a good repetition as far as how often do you guys meet? How often do you guys get
mm,
together? For example, my friends, I make sure that I try to at least hang out with them in a huge group setting once a month. And then I also have a big core value in personal relationships,
mm,
one-on-one connections. So I make sure that every single month I meet with my very, very close, 10, in that 10, one-on-one time as much
wow.
as I can, so because relationships are really important. So obviously every single relationship, has a different type of
Sure.
has a different type of what's the word that I'm looking for? Has a
Nature, I guess, right? Is it a different nature?
yeah, different nature, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
identifying that nature and doing something respective to that nature. And then the last thing that I
Mm,
want to say is a healthy relationship is it's not just giving, right? But it's also challenging the other person and
mm.
helping the other person grow. So I'm going to tell you something that I feel like is a whole podcast, but I think it feeds into this question,
Love it.
and it's
He's
kind of
already giving us work. Look at this. He's already giving us work. Talk about challenge. You see that?
it's going to be
Season 2.
really deep, and it may encourage some some healthy conflict, which I'm a big proponent of, right? But I was doing some reflecting, some journaling about relationships, and what I saw is that at the end there are two types of relationships, right? Type 1 and type 2, just to label them as type 1 and type 2.
Mm-hmm.
Type 1 relationships, or there are two types of people that influence relationships. That's what I meant to say. Two types of people that influence relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Type 1 is individuals that really play the victim card. They blame
Mm,
others. They suck the energy out of the room.
mm,
They would rather point the finger than take ownership and start tackling the goals at hand to get over the challenges that they have. Now, on the opposite side are type 2 people. And type 2 are individuals that take ownership, that grow, that are willing to take constructive feedback, right?
mm,
Are willing to be aware of where their challenges are and start doing the actions to overcome those challenges. Now,
mm.
here's the solace, right? In that type 1, everybody can become a type 2, right? It just takes some work to get there, right? It
Mhm,
takes
mhm.
type 2. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because healthy, I'm focusing on the word healthy relationship. All
Yeah.
of us here have experienced toxic relationships. And if we're really to peel that onion and really get to the core, it's because one person was a type 2 and the other person was
Mhm.
a type 1. And the type
Wow.
2 trying to encourage a type 1, a type 2, let's read, let's grow, let's write our goals down, let's take ownership. A type 1 isn't there yet. And a lot of
Mm.
Yeah.
toxicity happens. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. The power of yet, right? The
I
power
love this.
That's why I'm not singling, individuals that may fall in the type 1, right? Because we grow into that. We can grow into type 2. There's work to be done, right? But we can grow into type 2. So focusing on the healthy. All of us on this call, we have friendships, we have relationships, we have business relationships, partnerships, and whatnot. The ones that are hard, right? And what's going on here? Really be honest, not just with yourself about that person or that company, but yourself as well. You got to be honest with yourself.
True.
Because if you are a type 1 person or type 1 company, or if you're a type 2 person in a type 2 company, and the person or the company that you're working with is in the type 1 category and they're not in that type 2 yet, you may have to make a hard decision and break that off, right? So again, this is a whole podcast. I'm trying to bring this down in a couple of minutes, because I know that I'm sure there's some, hey, let me challenge you here, Hector. Let me challenge you there, Hector. But I'm focusing on the word healthy here. And many times there's a fracture in the relation. And by the way, type 1, there's nothing wrong. They're not mean people. They're not bad people. There's just certain characteristics that are in a healthy relationship. So I'll stop there because I can go on forever, but I was on healthy. So, again, forgiveness. And then based on the nature of the relationship, what are you doing to add to that relationship and make time for that relationship? And then getting really deep and raw. Are they type 1, where it's everybody else's fault and playing the victim and sucking the energy, and they haven't gone to type 2 yet? Or are they type 2, right? Because type 2 and type 2, they jive. We all know those people where, I want to grow and I want to challenge you, and we do the same thing, and it's, and then we're talking to somebody that doesn't have those values. They're kind of more in that type 1, and the type 1, it's just, and there's a whole nother thing I can go into, but I'll leave that maybe for another podcast. But I would say relationships, those 3 things.